Welcome back to the Dare to Dream podcast. My name is Gregory Russell Benedict,
My name is Vincent Van Patten.
and this podcast is meant to inspire you to embark on the adventure of your life.
Brother, we are back together after, did we record in spring? Probably. So that was when you came to Japan the last time we recorded together. And since then, my Wi-Fi hasn't been ideal, but we won't get into that. First time recording together, too long, and much to catch up on, because we haven't at all since you've been here this weekend.
It is good to be back in person with you. This is so much better than seeing your fuzzy little face
Fuzzy little face.
on Zoom, glitching. What are we going to get into today, Vinny?
Yeah. A lot. Something, we were at dinner last night with my dad, my stepmom Eileen, my brother Jesse, you, my other best friend Mohath, and Eileen said something that definitely pertains to what we're experiencing and what I think many people experience it. And that is that where we are right now, where we are today, what we're doing with our lives, this was once just a dream. And it's so easy to get caught up in what's coming next, how things are not perfect in this moment, how maybe we're not going to get to the next thing and the next finish line, next threshold. But where we are today was once a far-fetched reality. So I'll come out on that after in a sec, but yes.
I think for everyone listening too, there's some piece of your life, there's something in it that was once just a wild dream. And we're going to get into what it is for each of us. But that fact alone, there's a positive and a negative to it. The positive is that you are progressing toward your dream, achieving them along the way. When I hear that, the negative for me is, oh man, if every time I achieve the dream, I instantly shift the goalpost and I want to get to the next level and I'm unable to appreciate the now, that's just going to keep happening as I go further and further. And so when your stepmom said that last night, it was really reassuring. And it was also a wake-up call of, okay, figure out this whole gratitude for being here in the now thing. Otherwise, when we get to the next levels, the things that we're aiming at, if we're still thinking we aren't quite there yet, still wanting more, it's going to be a vicious cycle.
Yeah, and I have a clear example of just how this showed up in my life recently. But I think, just for starters, it's like gratitude. It's the only way to make sure that you are appreciating the journey that you're on rather than only looking ahead at what's coming continually. Because it's like, yeah, it is so easy to just, your reality where you are in this current situation becomes normal so quickly. And you get to that place and, me getting to Japan within months, it was like, that's just my daily life now. And it's crazy to think that 4 years ago when I came back from Japan the first time with you and with the rest of the squad, I couldn't even talk. It was Christmas Eve. Couldn't even talk to my family because I was just on the brink of tears because I wanted to explain so much to them about how that trip changed me. How I, for the first time, put into thought and words that this is the life I want. I've felt it. It's out there. I want to be exploring, continually just pushing into the unknown and having this feeling of adventure. And I just had no idea how to make it a reality. And on that trip, I did reach out to one of my, not idols, but not mentors really, but inspirations. There we go. And I'm like, is there a way I could come to Tokyo and work for you? And at the time he said, it wouldn't really work at the moment, but just keep doing what you're doing. And that was the first step I really took to start living the life of my dreams. When I just asked myself, what would truly make me happy? What sort of life do I actually want? And since then, this moment, that was the first time when I was like, okay, I want to move to Japan. This is it. It was 2 months before COVID, so I didn't know I'd have to wait 3 years. And this was literally my dream, was just getting to Japan. And I didn't care really how. I would be an English teacher. that's the most obvious way to do it, but that was a far-fetched reality. Like to actually live in this place that I just experienced for a month, and just because I wanted everyday life to be my reality. I wanted everyday life in Japan to be like my new reality where I'm just in awe every day. And that's how it is. And I mean, gratitude is really like the only way to keep that awe inspired outlook of just really taking stock of what do I have right now? Why am I just looking towards the future when like this is where I am is so beautiful. And it's this contrast of being and becoming, like how, because we have to push into the future. We have to think about what we want to do. Got to have a vision, but to stay present and content in the ever present now is a skill that we need to develop, or else life will just flash by too quickly.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into the gratitude stuff, but one piece I want to touch on that you're mentioning is that first moment when you bring a new dream into your world. There's the inner dream and then the outer dream. And for you, that moment when for the first time you're like, wow, I really want to live in Japan. That realization internally is huge. It's scary. It's shocking. And then you have to first admit it to yourself that this is something that I really want. And then you have to go to the people in your life that you need to let know. Like for you, it was your parents, and say, here's this dream, this new dream I have. It's fragile, and hold it out and say, this is my dream. What do you think of it? And for most of the time, when you share that dream with someone, they doubt it. At least in my experience, most of the time that fresh new dream you haven't thought it fully out. People come in, they start asking questions, and it feels sometimes like an attack. But for you to approach them wasn't on New Year's Eve. It sounds like it was after that. Just saying, I want to move to Japan, especially given the circumstances of the world with COVID. It took longer than expected, but you living in Japan feels normal now. At one point, that was wildly outrageous.
Definitely. And so just to kind of give a tangible moment recently that exemplifies this is my so next dream. So I've been in Japan for 14 months teaching English and living in Osaka, and I plan to move to Tokyo to get a writing job. And I'm going to this week, I'm planning to reach back out to Bianca, Aging Bianca, who I reached out to 4 years ago.
Re-engage.
Say, I'm ready. I've been in Japan for 14 months. I'll do anything to just work for you and just learn from you and re-engage the file. And my next dream is getting to the next step. It's not just getting to Japan, but it's now I'm situated and it's working a job that I truly feel like that's what I'm meant to do, like writing and creating. And so I kind of put in my notice for teaching, and that's definitely recording, right? Script?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Cut that out. And so I put in my notice, and it was like my last week of teaching at my main school, and I'm good friends with my school director, this girl Ririka, and it was like the last day, and getting kind of sad. I did not expect throughout the week, this man who I wrote about him once, but he was in definitely one of the lower level classes. He doesn't speak very well, but he just so like joyful, and it's like 70 years old or maybe like 65, and he gets up like 3 a.m., goes and works at like a fruit and vegetable wholesaler, like comes back home, cooks for his family, goes to sleep at 9, and then I'm just like, how do you do it? Works from like 5 to 4 or whatever, and still comes to learn English, and just so happy and joyful to be there. He brought me like a little gift, parting gift. I didn't tell him I was leaving, but I guess there was a teacher Vinny is gonna be his last week. So like him, and then these 2 sisters who I didn't even teach, but they were just always around, and I was the main teacher there, taught by a different teacher. But their parents just like come in one day, have like a Polaroid, and ask if they could take a picture with me. I'm like, okay, these pictures are for them. They take these, like, go out, take pictures of the Polaroids, print them out. They like paste them in these little letters that they wrote, give them to me. And now, when I'm 55, 60, I'll be looking back at my first year in Japan, like have those pictures as like a tangible thing. And for the dad to go, who knows if he bought the Polaroid for that? Wouldn't be surprised because it was pretty new. And just like little memories like that, I couldn't believe it. I brought him back here just so I could leave him in Los Angeles. For the record, we are in LA now.
You brought him back. He's in your suitcase.
Yeah, he's right over there. Hey, Roku, come over. So, yeah, brought the letters back, and I'll always have that. And, teaching English, that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life, obviously, because I'm no longer doing it. But that year in Japan teaching English is something I will always cherish. And obviously there were highs and lows, but it was such a formative experience. And so at the end of the week, talking to Ririka, and she's like, I hope you're happy in Tokyo. I thought about it for a sec. I'm like, I'm already happy. I'm happy right now. And that was I just meant it and just came out that like, I'll get to that point and maybe, I'll feel like things are progressing. I'm getting closer and closer to this ideal lifestyle that I want. But if I can't be happy now, I won't be happy then. I'm happy just to be on this journey, doing this thing and pushing into the unknown. And it's definitely not always easy. There's highs and lows, but I'm happy just to be in the ring and to have this experience. And the destination is not what we think it's going to be. Things will always change and you get to that place and your life will change perhaps. But if you can't be happy where you are, then good odds you're not going to be happy then. As Naval Ravikant says, if you can't be happy with a cup of coffee, you won't be happy with a yacht.
Very true. And I think what you're speaking to, what it brings up for me is that the path is not linear. Something we talk about a lot. Something we talked about in episode 1 of this podcast is that you never know how you're going to get to where you want to end up. You might go left 30 paces, and then because you went left, you realize that you needed to go right or you needed to step back. And for most of us, myself included, we think that the trajectory of our lives, of our career, is this straight line that has a nice slope. It's just up and to the right. When in reality, it's not that. It's not a stair step. It's has loop-de-loops. It's like chutes and ladders. You think you're going well, and then you get to the spot that sends you back 6 spaces.
Right.
And it really is this culmination of knowns and unknowns, things you could predict, things you can't predict. And it ties into what we wanted to talk about today, which is that there's no right way to get there. And there shouldn't be anything that's off limits. One of the things that we really espoused at the beginning of this podcast was no job, follow your dream, wholeheartedly pursue it. And at least for myself, there was a bit of off-limitness or fear in ever going back and getting a job or working for someone else. Like one of my goals was to never work for someone else again. And now I'm realizing that one of the most important things to achieving the dream, my dream, your dream, is staying in the game long enough for it to happen, for all of the randomness and the spontaneity to come together. And if getting a job on the side, getting a full-time job is what is going to allow you to stay in the game with less stress, both emotionally, physically, financially, then that is completely okay. There's nothing off limits. And I think as we continue to go down this path, the more we can remove these self-imposed limitations, the better.
Yes. And it is so funny that we came out of the gates hot. We started the Dare to Dream podcast. We've been working for ourselves. The first steps I took was just to see if I could be a full-time blogger online. Like I just make a writing schedule, post on Medium 5 times a week, 6 times a week, long stories, post in like every publication. And it was so important to me. You started a nonprofit coming out of the gates. It was like, it was us against the world. And
We both made millions
Make
and retired
millions.
early.
And that's why we're here doing this, just doing what we love now, because we're sitting on gold.
Yeah.
But it's funny how things change. And I was talking to my Uncle Timmy about this at Thanksgiving, like holding on tight versus letting go. And letting go, just releasing your grip, is just as important, if not more important than, well, I think it's definitely more important than holding on tight, but it is with everything in life, relationships, experiences, ideas. The more we can just hold on gently and let these things flow in and out of our lives with a greater ease, just the more enjoyable life's going to be, and the more possibility and magic that is going to enter our lives. So, yeah, we started this thing like we can't have jobs. It was just, jobs are the devil. We're not going to do them ever again. Well, maybe we need to reconsider that. I'm teaching in Japan, and with me, I mean, I've had both had jobs, and also I was doing real estate, so that was more of a fluid thing where you're kind of supposed to be your own boss. Did that for 2 years in LA, but I've learned through jobs, working at restaurants, clothing stores, as an English teacher, that I don't want a job like a 9 to 5 that I don't like. And it's still like with this job that I'm doing now. I know I don't want to clock in, clock out when it feels pointless. I know I don't want to have to look a certain way just because you're supposed to. I know that I don't want to sit around doing nothing when I could be doing more productive things. There are jobs out there that will cater to your specific wants and needs. All jobs aren't the cookie cutter 9 to 5, situation. A job, I think maybe we have to be looser with what that even means. Like, I'm looking for, I think, my ideal job. Like, I'm almost transitioning from, I'm always going to write books, and that's what I want to do. I'm working on one right now about, my European journey, and then about Japan and such. But my ideal job, I think, in this moment is just working for a magazine like Sabukaru, which is where Adrian Bianco, that's his magazine publication, where I could just learn about content creation and digital just presence and design and fashion. Like, that's stuff that I'm interested in. If I had a job where that's what I was doing at all times and I wasn't clocking in, but I was showing up, I would be psyched. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And with you, why don't you explain kind of your next evolution there?
Yeah, well, there's two things that came up when you were sharing that. The first is that you actually needed a job to go to Japan. Like, you can't just show up in Japan and live there without a job for your visa. Like, you getting a job was very much a part of what allowed you to live there.
Yes.
So sometimes it's necessary. And the second piece is, you and I have spent so much time learning over the past couple of years. And what I'm thinking about now is finding a job where you get paid to learn. So you're still learning and building the skills you want. Make sure that it's in line with that ultimate dream, that ultimate goal you're pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
But get paid to learn. Get paid to be around people who have similar goals and dreams and aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you said it perfectly. Jobs are not the devil. We started off so hot with that because we had both just had such a soul-sucking experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we really wanted to go out and see what we were capable of. And our lives will never be the same because we did that. We are still on that trajectory and on that path, getting some stability, some interaction with other people. I mean, that feeds into my desire to go find something, whether it's being a contract coach at another company like the one I am doing currently, or even going in-house at a company and being a leadership coach and actually going to an office. Like, I am so tired of spending every waking hour in my bedroom office dungeon because I'm just lonely. Like, I want to get out there and be with other people who are striving, who have the energy. And yeah, I'm with those people all the time, but it's over Zoom. Just getting out into the world again, getting out of my house is definitely something I am seeking in this next chapter.
That brings up the next point very nicely. that in our 20s, we have to be doing that. I mean,
You
your whole
have
life,
to.
you have to. Heard it here first. Our whole life, but I think specifically our 20s. Like, I almost forget his name. Algebra of Success with
Scott Galloway.
Scott Galloway.
Great guy.
Great
Very bald.
man. Very bald and very smart. He said, like, if you're in your 20s, move to a city, get into the action. And you know, it's not for everybody. You are not as particularly a city man, but you just got to be getting to the action. I mean, it speaks to the point that you want to be out there, like, just talking to people in the energy. And then for myself, I need it. Like, I love just being in Osaka now, where I could just, every weekend, I just go into the city and just hang out, just people watch and try to talk to strangers once or twice, see what happens. You just got to get into the action, because that is where connections are made. That is where, if you're looking to date, you got to be talking to people. If you just want to be doing interesting things, just get around the energy. And something we've been talking about with Morgan and such, friends who are all going through the same emotions and feelings and tribulations of trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing in this point of our lives. Our 20s, we hear that maybe they're supposed to be the best time of our lives. We grow up in your teens, you're in college. It's like you graduate from college and you're in your 20s. You're supposed to be top of the world, just ripping through it. And it's really not. It is hard. It's hard. Your 20s are difficult for a multitude of reasons. And it's not just hard. It's the most unique time for certain things. Like, I'm a firm believer in different seasons of life being for different things. And I do not want to regret not spending my 20s in the way that they were meant to be spent. And it doesn't have to look the same for everybody, but we're never going to have this little of responsibilities in our lives unless, you know, you sell everything and you're 40 and you live in your van. But for most of us, the responsibilities are just going to keep accruing. You're going to start a family, perhaps. You're going to move up in your career. You're going to get a dog, all that stuff. And 20s are difficult because I think there's a certain pressure that they're supposed to be the most fun, enjoyable time of our lives. Maybe this is the last time to just throw, you know, just not give a shit and just kind of go for it and have so much fun and like not care. And that tension, because I think some of us love doing that stuff, but a lot of us maybe don't want to. I mean, you sitting at the table with me. You don't want to be getting hammered on the weekends. You want to be like working on your career and stuff. And that tension between kind of what we're supposed to be doing in a sense of like having fun versus maybe I don't want to be drinking every weekend. Maybe I do want to just like be working on myself more. And how do I tell my friends that? How do I maybe find new friends? Like, all these tensions are coming up against each other. And it is a very interesting decade. It's a very interesting kind of paradigm to work through on, you know, individually, and feel like what do I truly want in this unique time of my life.
It's what we talked about last night. We are told the 20s, best years of your life, go have fun, goof off, mess around. I'm going to tell my kids that the 20s were incredibly difficult because, yes, you have the most freedom and probably close to the least amount of responsibility besides college that you've ever had.
Right.
But as we were talking about last night, all of this time and all of this freedom can be crushing.
It's true.
You have this weight. You have this, like you said, I love the word tension, this tension between wanting to prove yourself, build something, go out there and start the rest of your life and make something of yourself. While at the same time, you have less direction. You're trying something for the first time, most likely. And the tension between those two, plus navigating the social transition from someone who, this is what we did in college to this is what I want to do now. It's really, it can be heavy and it can be tough. And then when you get older people saying, oh yeah, your 20s, they're so great, the golden years. It's hard because it makes you feel like you might be doing something wrong. Like, why is this so hard? Shouldn't it be easier? And it also ties into what we were talking about last night, where there's just so many differences between generations. Right now, I mean, who knows? We'll never know if this is true or not, but it definitely feels like being 28 now was harder than being 28 50 years ago. We're talking about how the baby boomer generation, like, you're 28, oh, you just get another paper route and buy your third house. Like, it's so, at least where we live in San Diego and also Japan, it's so freaking expensive to live. There's just all of this pressure, I think, to make it, especially like to make it before you're 30, to make it, insert whatever season you're currently in, trying to get there before the end of it. And realizing that it is hard, and even accepting that has really helped me a lot.
Definitely. Yeah. And the cool thing is that with podcasts, and I think one of the most difficult things about it is we're just exposed so much more. Like, who knows if it's actually harder now than, I mean, 50 years ago, they're going to Vietnam in America. So I think it's a little easier than that. But like, we're exposed to, like, maybe for our dad, we were talking about our dads, how
Always talking about our dads.
always they were, in a sense, reacting to life more because you didn't have social media. You didn't have a endless array of options of things and paths and directions you could be taking. And it kind of puts you in analysis paralysis of, I have so many things I could be doing. What do I do just to start the day? Like, should I be doing ice bath and 10 different things, or should I just play video games? Or anyways, maybe with like our parents, you didn't have all that information. This is just what life is. I'm just going to keep walking in this direction and kind of see what happens. And if that means just keeping at this job, that's that. If that means starting my own company and just see where that leads, that's that. But for us, it's like, okay, I'm doing this, but here's a million other things maybe I should be doing. Should I stop what I'm doing now? Try this? Should I try the 4 other social media platforms and go for that? That's just like first world problems of how to find your path in life. For me, I mean, it's going to be the hardest decade, I think, of my life, because just my back situation and dealing with this as I pursue these goals. And I'm going to tie this into a different topic after we wrap this one up. But I think an interesting and a cool thing is the people that we look up to with all the information that we're constantly imbibing. You know, they're from guys and girls who have got through their trial by fire. They're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, 70s. And I'd say for the most part, the people that we like aspire to be, like, we're constantly taking in information from a variety of people, but the ones who are like, okay, we're going to be in the room with them in 10 years. Chris Williamson, Jay Shetty, Ryan Holiday, like, they're like mid to late 30s. So it's a decade from now. Adrian Bianco, he just posted a couple days ago on Instagram so he's German, and posted just his apartment in Berlin. It's like 10 years ago. I was 28, no job, no money, no CV. And like, that's when my life began. That's pretty inspiring that at least we have a path and a direction. And I think that's the most important thing. Just have a vision. And because while this season of our lives is so difficult, it's also, I mean, it's the most exciting. I don't know if it's the most exciting. It's the only one I've lived in, but it's pretty damn exciting because there is so much potential. And like, with all these difficulties and possibilities, you could do anything. And I think, like I was saying, it's such a unique season because you can and you must. Like, if you have to develop a vision of like, what would truly just be out there, and like, what do I want? What do I truly want my life to look like? And if you have that vision, things will become a lot easier of realizing, what do I want? What do I not want? Am I on the path towards that? or is this making me stray further from it? Like with me, I don't know how my day-to-day life's going to look like. I have no idea what the next 6 months are going to look like, but I know the direction I want to head in. It has to do with creating and exploring the world. And I mean, that's really it. It's like these pretty wide bowling bumpers. And I might be rocking back and forth between them, but as long as I'm moving down the lane, I'm heading in the right direction. To wrap up this point, sorry, it's like the people that we aspire to be like, Chris Williamson and stuff, they all went through a very difficult time in their 20s. Like Matthew Hussey is the other one. He dealt with chronic pain, just like excruciating headaches throughout his 20s. Jay Shetty came back from being a monk and just felt very misunderstood, and he did not know what to do. Chris Williamson was dealing with this. He was on Love Island, and had this whole persona of this like party boy, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And he was like, he felt alone and, didn't know what to do. So you're not alone if you're feeling these things. It's easy with podcasts, and if you do take in a lot of information and you're wanting to get better, to feel like you are falling behind and that you're not in the same, place that these people were in. And it's like, how did they get there? I mean, I definitely feel that. I'm sure you do too. But this is a necessary time. And that's why the 20s are cool. It's like these people went through the trial by fire, and it's cool. I think that me and you try to make it the purpose of this podcast to show what it is like dancing in the flames.
That's really what we set out to do. I remember our first tagline was an honest and unfiltered look into what it's like to quit your job and follow your dreams. And a couple of things came up when you were sharing. One is to make the vision. Making a vision is this big, sometimes intimidating thing. And I want to just break that down real quick for people listening. A vision can be a single sheet in your journal where you say, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. It can take 3 minutes. It can take 3 years. Just start small. And again, as we always say, just start. Like, just write down what you want. And one thing that's really helps me is releasing the pressure of, if I write down what I want now, this is what it is going to be forever. The amount of times that I ask myself, okay, what do I want? What do I really want? Why do I want that? That really helps me figure out that direction that I'm going in and continuing to refine it and make sure that it is still truly what I aspire to be. That's the first thing I wanted to say. And then the second thing is, all of the people that we aspire to be like had this dark night of the soul. They had this period that was really difficult. And even last night we were talking to your stepmom and your dad, and they were talking about having identity crises at the end of their 20s throughout their life, and recognizing that being human is incredibly challenging. It's amazing and comical, and there's so much that can go right and go wrong. And just, for me at least in this moment, really focusing on how far you've come instead of how far you have to go. Really bringing in that gratitude piece. And intellectually, I understand that where I am today, a leadership coach, a life coach, that sounded so asinine. That sounded so ridiculous when I was working in finance. Like, who am I to quit my job in finance, ignore all of the years of schooling that I've learned about finance, and do something completely different? But now that's what I'm doing, and it's so normal, and it feels like it was always going to be this way, when in reality it was so wild at first.
Yeah, it is crazy. What do you think, like, what works best for you to make yourself stop and realize that, like, look how far you've come? Is it just saying it? Do you have a practice?
I am still very much figuring it out, but I think it's having conversations like the ones we had last night, where you just slow down and focus on, oh yeah, I am where I once dreamed of being. And just sitting with that and constantly, I think so much of being an effective human is having constant reminders, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day, the things we're looking forward to, versus just slowing down and being reminded that right now is perfect.
Right now is all there is. all they'll ever be.
Remember when we wanted to start a podcast and how stressful and enormous it seemed to figure out, okay, how do we actually record a podcast? What equipment do we get? How do we film it? All of the things. Like, it is absolutely wild how much progress we can make towards something across time.
In real time, we're having one of these experiences right now. It is insane. We're on episode 145, maybe, I think. Sitting here, this moment right now might be the last time we see each other face to face.
Hopefully ever.
Hopefully. Yes. This could be it, buddy. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. And it's like you don't wanna let those moments slip away. And in Japan, I constantly am reminding myself like just how beautiful life is. And I'm so grateful that like the things that I feel like really matter to me are like the simplest things. And it is not easy. But the thing, like life is not easy. Things that get me through it are like the simple things. It's just the sun in the morning. It's friends talking to you when I broke down crying like 2 months ago just because I was in a low point on Zoom. And it's what do we truly need? I mean, I guess asking ourselves that, what do I truly want? What do I truly need? And then if you are walking in that direction, maybe even it's just to loving yourself more. It's to building stronger relationships. It's just starting to question what you might even want. Like, that's a great step. Once you get on that path and you feel like, wow, I actually am going somewhere. Like, let me just appreciate this. Like, the whole Japan thing is such a tangible example of looking towards the next thing. But how can I be present when this was something that I wanted so badly? And now I'm already thinking about moving to Tokyo. And I was thinking about recently, so I guess this does feed into the next point here, but when I was deciding, like, do I move to Tokyo or do I just kind of move home right now? Because I'm still in the process of healing my back. That is definitely a big part of my life. But I'm in this program for the first time, back blueprint, ability, or back blueprint with Brendan Backstrom. For the first time, I do have like a legit way out, and it's 5 days a week of exercises. And for the first time, I have true hope that it's not just praying that I'm going to get through this, but it's if I stick to this, which I will get out of this. And I was contemplating, do I move to Tokyo right now? Do I do this? Or do I just move back home for 6 months and just do whatever it takes to heal? And just the thought, I sat on it, slept on it, and the thought of moving home, that made me very sad. I'm like, I can't do it. I gotta go. I could continue healing while pursuing this dream.
I think this is the perfect time to bring in
the
quote
of all quotes,
the quote of all quotes,
quote that ends all quotes.
And it's around, it's never the right time.
Yes.
I'll let you take it away.
Yes, sir. So I had this big, do I go to Tokyo? Do I pursue this dream? Because I have a 3-year visa. And the thought of moving home and wasting any of that time while not living in Japan, I was like, I can't do it. And then right in the heart of when I was thinking about this, I watched Douglas Murray on Modern Wisdom. And he's talking about in 1939, C.S. Lewis was a writer, one of the biggest. Well, he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, but he's also a theologian. He's very Christian, and gave a speech in 1939. World War II is just starting, British, and just to give people a boost of how do you continue living your life during these just unexplainable times? Like, how do you continue living your life when you're being bombed by the Nazis?
By the Germans.
And the speech goes like this. Plausible reasons have never been lacking for putting off all merely cultural activities until some imminent danger has been averted or some crying injustice put right. But humanity long ago chose to neglect those plausible reasons. They wanted knowledge and beauty now and would not wait for the suitable moment that never come. Periclean Athens leaves us not only the Parthenon, but, significantly, the funeral oration. Insects have chosen a different line. They have sought first the material welfare and security of the hive. Presumably, they have the rewards. Men are different. They propound mathematical theorems in beleaguered cities, conduct metaphysical arguments in condemned cells, make jokes on scaffold, discuss the last new poem while advancing to the walls of Quebec, and comb their hair at Thermopylae. This is not panache, it is our nature. And we could break that down, but Douglas Murray next says, I think the real lesson that Lewis is saying, I think it's an important message for young people in our time, is don't put off whatever it is you're meant to do until the timing is optimal. Don't fail to pursue whatever it is you think you're meant to pursue in your life until you have total tranquility, until you have the house or the apartment or the relationship. Don't put it off until then or until the world is peaceful, which will never happen. Never has, never will. Don't put it off until then, because if you do, then it means you'll put it off forever. Do whatever you're meant to be doing now. Start now if you haven't already started. And if you have started, don't go any slower, for God's sake.
So good.
Oh, man. Yeah. I heard that. I think it goes without saying that I've made the choice that I have to go to Tokyo. I have to use the time, this visa, and I can heal while living my life and doing this thing. I think they go hand in hand. Who knows? Maybe I would come here, I'd move back home, I'd heal in 6 months, and life would go on. But I would have this what if, I think. Just this regret. And that's the thing that's scary. That's something that I'm trying to grapple with, like our 20s. I so badly don't want to regret not seizing it to the utmost. But in that is like this scarcity mentality of like, I'm missing something, I'm not doing enough, when I could just be like enjoying it more and relaxing and just allowing things to happen as they're meant to. And perhaps the tension is good, but it's, it might not be the easiest, it might not be the best time of our lives, but it's definitely a unique time where if you're healthy bodied, Anthony Bourdain says, go sleep, go travel as far and as wide as you possibly can, sleep on floors if you have to, but just get out there. Like, if you're able bodied and you can do it, and single, relationship, doesn't matter. Maybe your partner will go with you, but this is a very unique time to take chances and I think develop that vision, because even if it's the craziest thing ever, I aspire to be the next Anthony Bourdain. I don't know how it's going to get there. It could take 50 years, but that is what I'm walking towards. And now is the time to really take chances, try, fail, get out there, do different things, take jobs. If you're doing something, maybe if you are a content creator or you are a entrepreneur or anything like that, and you don't like it, maybe it's not all it's meant up to be, hyped up to be. Try some jobs. Take a normal job and see if you like it. You could love the 9 to 5. There is no right or wrong way to do it, but this is the time to just be trying.
What comes up for me in that is that try the things that are relevant and applicable to you. Just because someone you admire says you need to do X or you need to do Y, like this is the time for you to travel. This is the time for you to build a business. This is the time for you to find a partner. Yes, if that is what you want in this moment, but really tailor it to what you want this chapter of your life to look like.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm so guilty of, is being super impressionable. And when someone I admire and look up to says, oh, this is how you have to do it, I'm like, yes, that's it. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, wait, actually, do I want that, do I want what that lifestyle would bring about? Do I want the end goal that they have? Do I want their life? And so slowing down and just figuring out what it is for you.
That's definitely very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, realizing that timing, like, it's never going to be perfect. And if you are thinking about trying something new, and if you are in your 20s or 30s or whatever, the timing's never going to be right. Like for me, it's like I've had to pursue these things while being in pain for a lot of it. And it's part of my life, but it has made me who I am. And I think it's definitely made me I talked about this a bunch, but better writer. And it's in your struggle, in your challenge is your destiny. I have to believe that. And I think for all of us, it doesn't matter what it is, but the thing that you're grappling with that you can't get over, like that is where your destiny aligns, or it's at least something to pursue.
Character, like a photograph, develops in the darkness. That is a quote I remind myself of so often, because it does feel like many of us in our late 20s are in this crucible of figuring out what's next, figuring out what we want to do in the next chapter. And maybe we need to stop trying to figure it out. Just let things unfold, just let things happen. But it is interesting. I take a lot of solace in realizing that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. If you think about how important character is and how you actually form a rock solid character, it's not through having everything given to you, having everything come easy. It is through going through challenges and adversities, trials and tribulations. And there is so much value in doing hard things. I want to bring in what I learned recently, which is from Andrew Huberman talking about this part of the brain called the AMCC that has a anterior mid-cingulate something cortex, I think is the scientific name, but we're going to call it the AMCC. And it's essentially this region of the brain that grows. It gets bigger over time when you do things that you don't want to do. The key here is using willpower, motivation, discipline, whatever it is that you use as the fuel source to make yourself do things that are good for you that you don't want to do. If that's running, if you despise running, but you consistently run, your AMCC grows. If you want to be a writer, but you don't like sitting down, putting your ass in the chair and writing, doing that every single day, overcoming that resistance, it causes the AMCC, this portion of your brain, to grow. And it's been shown that superagers is anyone who's in their 70s, 80s, 90s, who still have the mental acuity and sharpness of themselves in their middle age. These superagers all have outsized AMCCs. And so it's thought that the bigger your AMCC is, the sharper you are into old age, the longer you live. It's been linked to someone's will to live. And so it's just more proof to seek discomfort, to get uncomfortable, to do the hard things, and to understand that just because something is hard doesn't mean it's bad. Like, this whole episode could be summarized as this hard crucible chapter of your life is probably the best thing that could happen to you.
Yes, that's a great point. 20s aren't necessarily the best in your life. They're going to be difficult, but they can damn well be meaningful. Like the difficult stuff, I mean, for my back, it is definitely giving me the most meaning in my life. Like, it's helped me, just learn from other people and realize that we're all going through different things. And, that's not willfully doing something difficult. That's just a difficult experience. But yeah, with voluntarily facing discomfort and difficult things, that is where like meaning in life comes from. It's where you prove to yourself what you're capable of, what you can do. And that is just where growth takes place. And like with us and just the cold plungers this weekend, it's the mental hurdle. It is amazing to me. And it's something I'm kind of getting more interested in, is like how your mental muscles and just neurons and firing together and stuff like that. It's insane. It's like, if you just do something difficult, in your brain, there is this triaps or what do you call it? Trapeze artistry situation happening where gymnastics where things like you're getting stronger and it's actually changing who you are as a person, which is a wild concept. And the more you can be facing those things voluntarily and taking chances, talking to strangers, big one. Just it's the anti-ager. It's like, it's what keeps you young. And I mean, I got Uchi, my 86-year-old Japanese man, oldest student. He's like one of the sharpest students I got. He's always raising his hand and he's there, he's learning. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Anything else we wanted to cover today?
Well, really, it doesn't matter even. So to wrap this all up, it's like we have these visions, these places we want to get to. It doesn't really matter if you get to that place. Alex Mosey was talking about this. He spent like the first just super entrepreneur, just very successful guy. And he spent like the first, years of his 20s building gyms and really getting his business off the ground. And he took everything he had. He had like 6 gyms at a certain point, and he got a partner to invest in like this new thing. The guy took all the money, went bankrupt, and Alex Mosey just lost everything. And he could not believe it. It felt like just wasted all of his time, his money. He had nothing. But he just realized that that's not the goal. The goal is not even to have like the 6 gyms or whatever. What actually he got from it is the person he became in that process. He got the skills and he could start again. And he made more money in like the next year than he did in like that entire time combined. It doesn't really matter if I get to Anthony Bourdain's level or like my ideal perfect job. The fact that I am walking in a direction, the fact that you are changing your perspective of what you might want or what you might want to be doing, the fact that you are going through these growing pains of like building your brand and your company and obviously still having great successes too. Like you are changing people's lives for sure and doing far better than I'm sure you could possibly imagine. But
thanks, bud.
No doubt about that. Who we're becoming through this process is the point. That is the destination. And we can't always see. It's very hard to see that. Because, I mean, this just ties it all together with like the gratitude. And this was once the dream. Just being here today. And to just be on this path. That is the point. And if you continually just kind of help yourself realize that. And that is the ultimate like convergence of being and becoming. It's being grateful for where we are now, realizing that you're gonna do great. Just continue, keep going. And in the end, if you get there, fantastic. If you don't, you'll have a hell of a time along the way.
Point of life is just to live.
It's just to
live.
Live, damn it.
And I'm really glad you brought up that last piece with Hermosi, because I think that's the perfect way to tie this all together. Is he says sunk cost fallacy, which is you did all this work, you invested all this money, and you lost it. The outcome wasn't what you wanted. The sunk cost fallacy says that is a bad thing, and he says, I don't believe in that. Everything that he went through built him into the person who was able to, after he lost all his money, go make more money in the next year. So I personally don't believe in the sunk cost fallacy either. I think all of human life is becoming, focusing on the character. It's why one of my favorite quotes of all time is Seneca. He says, where you arrive does not matter so much as the type of person you are when you arrive there. I think it's really about who you become along the way. That quote by Seneca guides my life. And then this other one, it's unknown. No one knows who said it. It's hell is the man you could have become meets the man you became at the end of your life. So saying that there's a gap between who you could have been and what you actually ended up being. And one of my big motivators is trying to close that gap. I want the man I become to be an identical twin with that full potential version of myself.
Yeah. It's hard to see. It's hard to see, like, in this moment, how do you gauge who that is?
You can't.
Can't.
You can't. And you'll never know. That's the thing. It's like aspirational and idealistic. Your full potential, realize your full potential. You don't know because by definition it is potential. It is latent energy. But I think focusing on building character and seeing everything that happens in life as something to build you up, the hard, the good, the bad, the ugly, that's it.
Yeah.
And being grateful along the way as you become the person you're meant to be. There's no other way.
For sure. And that's what, makes it all beautiful. It's like, okay. I think for me, it just comes down to feeling. It's like, I know this is hard. I know this is a difficult season, but I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself just for being here, just for sticking through this, for continuing. And another Seneca, it's like, just being a better friend to yourself. That is the goal throughout it all. And there's a lot of pressure, like, how do I get to that ultimate potential? How do I reach that? Because what came up with that quote is like, okay, that means in this moment, I have to be doing more. I have to keep pushing myself. But maybe like who you can ultimately be will benefit from just being more like in this moment, just be more present and enjoying life. Because the strivers and, who just want to suck the marrow out of this experience, maybe they'll look back, maybe they do, and regret just not enjoying it more.
And it's so funny because I'm realizing that I'm essentially contradicting myself from the beginning of the podcast to saying this is how I live my life, this is what I'm striving toward, always trying to close the gap between who I am and who I can become. Yes, sure, that's important, but what feels to me in this moment more important is really enjoying where I am now and being grateful for where I am now. And I think the call to action as we land this plane for anyone listening to this is, when this ends, take a moment, 30 seconds, and ask yourself, which part of my life is now a reality that was once a dream?
And if there's nothing, maybe ask yourself, what's your dream? And you'll be surprised one day, you'll be sitting there, be grateful for it.
And it'll hit you that, wow, at one point this was just a wild idea beyond my imagination.
Start stumbling towards it. That's literally it. Love you all. Thanks for tuning
in. Bye now.
Bye now. Oh, thank you.